Well, first of all, my mom and dad sang in church constantly. They harmonized together. And Dad owned a 1943 Martin guitar, which he gave to me. And it's a completely restored 1943 Martin, and the value is unbelievable in this guitar. So we were always around music. Guitars, mandolins, harpsichords, trumpets, saxophones. I played sax for 5 years. I loved it. We played in church all the time. We played in, our musicals and our solo ensembles and stuff like that. Ron Ruckel was my band instructor as well.
Oh man, it was everything. Every get together she would play her accordion and something. It was nice, but I could never hold a tune, so I didn't get nothing from her there. But it was just like when you have Christmas or anything, and somebody can make music. It brings everybody together.
Yeah.
It was a good thing. I wish I knew how to play something.
Well, I went to St. Peter's Catholic School, and the nuns up there taught piano and violin. St. Pete's had a great school orchestra, which we were playing, and then you took lessons to learn. It was a lot of beginners, And I went to high school, and we were all over there. And in high school, we had a four-piece fiddle section that played, like down in the pits, as they call it, for operettas and that. And so I was in high school. I was in 4 operettas, one each fall, which was the maximum, and then I was in the school play as a senior.
In the early days when she played Pat Freeze had a band and Skip really owned these are old bands, but that's before I can remember, that's when she was in high school. So after, I don't think once we were born, she just was home with 4 boys. And then in her later years, she played the accordion for, at the old age home. And there was a group from Hartford called the Kitcheneers. They would play at the fair and that, just a bunch of older people that she played the accordion, and the rest played kazoo and different things and sang, and it was funny to just watch. It was fun to watch. Well, when she would play Cowboy Sweetheart, that was my favorite, because then she had a yodel.
The 2 outhouses, the men's and ladies' outhouses, were one of them. The roof had rotted through, so my brother and I rebuilt the roofs on that. I guess I bought the property back in 2000. I grew up about a quarter mile down the road. So when we were kids, the theater was still existing there. It's still standing. So we used to come and see it and things like that, and play on it. And towards the end, when Mr. Mahashik would be here, sometimes he'd let us play, sometimes he wouldn't let us play. So sometimes he'd holler, "Hey, get off the stage," or whatever. We'd go run off like little kids do. Unfortunately, the theater itself was gone. It had collapsed, and the fire departments came in and did some practice burns on it. So they'd light it up, put it out, and finally they just lit it up and burned it to the ground.
But Sunset Valley, yes, and that was about a mile down the road from my house.
Okay.
And that was a real fun place. And this couple he was talking about, Ed and Joanne, Ed Mahachik moved there after it was closed down from being a theater. It was an outdoor theater.
From what I understood, there's a lot of stories from people that came in. People would stop by if we were having a rummage sale or a picnic or something like that, and they would come up and ask about that old theater down there. So I'd ask them how they knew about it. And a lot of the stories were, that they were there when they were kids, came and seen the acts and the shows. And other people were saying that they used to have wrestling meets up on the stage, and they had mats on the stage and stuff. And other people just knew about it because they were in the neighborhood or the area and things like that.
Every time I look at you, something is on.
Well, it's private property now, and it had a shell, which was really unusual in those days. You know what I mean by a shell, and like an amphitheater shell. And so all the musical performers that they had would perform on that stage, and then we would sit on wooden seats on rise. I mean, you weren't even with it.
The area around the theater, it was just a pit, and when we bought it, we kind of started opening things up. Like a lot of the slabs that are now open were all covered up and grown over with trees and leaves.
And then we ended up square dancing there. I was in 4-H, and we would have like cookouts there. They had a tailgate you would consider a tailgate now. That's what we used to do there. And they would have things like soda and beer and stuff like that to sell. But we would bring our, let's say, hamburgers or hot dogs or brats and put them on these little grills, and then we would eat. And then after it would start to get dark out, and then they would have performances there.
Some people were talking about, you know, that like even before the stage, like back in Prohibition area, that it was like Al Capone used to come out here, and he used to do things with moonshine and all that kind of stuff. And some people asked about the moonshine stills, and I've never found any stills back there, and never found anything like that. But it'd be interesting, I guess, if that were true or not.
So I don't. There was mostly country western singers that were there. Lulabelle and Scotty was. You've never heard of them, I know, but I was probably 12 years old, 10 years old when this was going on.
Well, the Bandorama then evolved into the band night. Because when I got here, then we took everybody, started out with everybody in the middle school.
Yeah, we did. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12th grade band.
So how many kids was that? That was 600 kids?
Yeah.
Here's an early 1981 Bandorama program.
my God.
Oh my God. Band staff. Now there's a reason for the successes too. We always had good kids running things.
And they still use the band staff. Yeah. They still use the same kinds of it.
Good.
So I tuned my ear to music very quickly, very easily, which obviously helped me as a composer to be hearing things and then being able to play them then on the piano. That was a huge influence actually in being able to just get what was kind of coming out in my head, fine-tuning that, being able to hear it and put it down. My next teacher, Mrs. Ash, was taught a lot more music theory, a lot more technique, a lot more of the structure to now be like, okay, take this and blossom it, create, look at all the tools on this palette that you're not using. Like, let me teach you about those. She introduced me she had me read a biography of Andre Previn, who was a concert composer, but also did film music, conducted Valley Phil. That really inspired me, actually. Because I didn't know what direction to go, and I was like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do all these things, and that helped me see that you can do all of those things, but you have to learn the brass tacks. Well, a lot of those, that was from Cobalt Blue, and I did Cobalt Blue when I was in high school here, and sometimes in the choir room, sometimes in the band room, the practice rooms during study hall. And I just had such an itch to be a film composer, especially at that time. I had just like these grand melodies and this huge imagination of Irish landscapes and whatever. And I think that was my way to escape a little bit. So it's one thing to be in the place like Wisconsin and Slinger and everything, but because there isn't a whole lot distracting me here, then my imagination went wild, which is great because I could create different things for different, just all these different parts of my imagination could get like a score to them, basically. So that's really honestly where that came from, I think, was just my imagination.